This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help filmmakers level up their businesses and their craft so they can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us for a new conversation with Taylor and I. Taylor, how are you?
I am doing so great, Kelly. We just a few weeks ago came off of our pre-sale of our signature course, Luxury Filmmaker Framework, and I honestly am just so jazzed for all of the filmmakers who jumped in on that pre-sale opportunity. I know it's going to be such an amazing year for everyone's businesses, so I'm just kind of on cloud nine right now.
I honestly am too. I could not be more excited to welcome this founding group to the Luxury Filmmaker Framework. And in a few weeks from now, beginning of June, we will actually be opening up the course for our official launch. So the pre-sale was exclusively for those who are on our wait list, but in June, we're going to be opening up to anyone and everyone who is ready to enter the luxury market, is ready to scale their business. And we are excited to guide people along the way and coach them and just make next year look like a totally different year than this year.
Yeah. What I'm most excited about is watching people blow their own minds with what they're able to achieve. We've talked about this before, Kelly, but in the early years of business, you really just kind of think that the end all be all within the wedding industry is charging $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Once you hit $7,000, you're that's probably as high as it goes. But our job here is to open everyone's eyes to the true possibilities for your businesses and where you can really take it. Personally for me, I only have 8 weddings booked this year, and I'm so excited just for those 8, and I will be making more money than I ever have in my business, honestly. And every single one of them I'm so excited about individually, and I think you probably feel the same.
I do too. This has been kind of the first year where I'm entering into a new level of growth for our business as well. Taylor, I love what you said a few episodes ago where we were talking to, listeners about how you and I aren't done growing either. And we're here to scale our own businesses into even deeper within the luxury market and to pull those with us as we enter some new things. And I'm learning so much along the way. Last month we filmed the biggest wedding of our career, and I learned so much. Oh my goodness. And I'm so excited to be learning this so that I can relay all that information to those who are in future masterminds of ours, future VIP experiences, everything. So it's really cool. I'm glad to be, the, what am I looking for? Being not the scapegoat, but
a guinea pig?
Yeah, there was the guinea pig. Yes. The guinea pig into this. And it's been cool to just learn. I think we get, I never want to stop learning. And I think that is where we keep ourselves from burnout for sure. Having, just that open mind to learning new things and changing the way we run our businesses. And so, yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that continuing to learn and push the envelope is a huge piece of the not getting burned out puzzle. I mean, I've only been in business for 6 years and you are more than double that. So honestly, I think that what you have going on is such a great framework for everyone to learn from. Clearly you're still so excited to be filming weddings and you're still loving it. And I don't think anyone in this industry enters it with the notion that they only want to be doing this for 5 years, although that does tend to be the case. A lot of people do exit the industry around that 5-year mark. So I don't know. I kind of want to learn from you. How have you stayed invigorated through over a decade of filming weddings?
That's a really good question. As a preface, Taylor and I didn't have any subjects in mind for this. We're like, let's just sit down and have a conversation. So I think this is maybe where we're headed. You know, I think that it really comes from an understanding of your why. Having a why in your business is so important, and your why can always change. Our why was always to put our clients first. When I think about creating their wedding film, I'm big in like the big picture of it. So it's never been about posting something that gets a ton of recognition or a ton of like, views or likes or whatever. Like, yeah, those things are nice, but like in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking of that client who's watching their wedding film 30 years from now and like what that experience is. And I think that's also a reason why we haven't like really ever leaned into like new styles that kind of come and go, like waves of styles. We've always kind of stayed fairly traditional. And I think it's because we have that traditional mindset of having a film that someone is going to enjoy, like I said, 30 years from now. So that's a huge one. I think doing it with my husband has been huge. We've had different seasons of feeling burnt out, and we've been able to like lift each other up through that, have like really honest conversations about what it is that is burning them out. So that's been really helpful. And we actually had like kind of a hard season where he felt like he was just kind of along for the ride in my business per se, because that was kind of my background was filmmaking. It was like my idea to start 618 Studios. And I think that maybe in the way that I like really treated him more as like a second shooter, he never really felt like he had true say. That's when we went to the drawing board and decided that it was time to bring commercial into our business. And that's been really great too, because that just really has allowed for a healthy balance, professionally and personally too. So I don't know, just all of those things. Finding friends in the industry, really having a good community has been key to not burning out. It can feel lonely. I think we've said this before, as solo business owners, it can feel very lonely, but having just a really core relationship of stuff. And actually, Paul and I were just talking about this too. We're talking about friends of ours in the industry that, yes, we work with, and yes, they refer us, but it's not just about that. Like, we really do have true, genuine relationships with those friends, with those planners, with those photographers, with other filmmakers too. Those friends of ours could not refer us a wedding for the next 5 years, and we're still going to hang out and drink wine and get pizza together on Friday nights or whatever it is. So I think just understanding that like it's not always all about business has really helped us along the way.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds like balance and like diversification. Like, I feel like I bring such like an analytical and like sterile way of like looking at things, but like I have to like categorize things in my brain that way. But I don't know, my personality type is to be like so hard all in on one thing. And then like I think burnout is like a natural thing to happen. And for me, like honestly, like bringing in this like second brand, like the Level Up, and then honestly, like the most fun I've ever had with it has been these last like 4 or 5 months with you being along for the ride. And I'm like more excited for like filming weddings and for all of this, and I think I have been since like the first few months of business, where everything was just like so new and fresh, and like you're just on this like snowball of learning, and like you're just binge watching everything that you can get your hands on. Like I feel like that excited like right now, which I don't know, that's really cool to me.
Yeah. And kind of going back to like, really understanding what your why is and how your why can change. This year has been the first year now being brought on to the Level Up Co. is that my why too is going in and learning new things so that I can relay that on to students of ours, fellow filmmakers that are looking to us as coaches. So even, coming off of that huge 4-day wedding and everything that I learned along the way, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is what I need to tell my students. Here's a box that wasn't checked that should have been checked that I'm going to make sure that our students know about this now. And so, you're filming this beautiful event. You have an amazing client that you're creating a beautiful wedding film for, but our why extends beyond that now. And that's been something that's been really cool now to enter this new season with this whole new why.
So you just said that this 4-day wedding that you just got off of, the biggest of your career, was like a huge learning experience for you. Can you like give us a little glimpse into a few things that you learned?
Yes. So I would say also it was the biggest wedding of the planner's career too. She was actually very transparent in saying that. And we were all just like hanging on for dear life in a way. It was a huge 4 days. So we did Thursday rehearsal dinner, then we did Friday welcome party, Saturday wedding, Sunday farewell brunch. And looking back, I probably should have, and again, I'm so used to working with planners that lay it all out for us. I don't really feel like I need to like get into their inbox to ask them certain questions, but it was kind of obvious that I maybe should have done that. One, I don't think that it was, I don't think it was like relayed as much, or like I realized like how large in scale this wedding was going to be. Yes, I knew that it was going to be a 4-day event, but in all honesty, we should have brought on a third shooter. Just because of the transitions from all the different spaces. So, rehearsal dinner, like we had it in the bag, it was fine. Welcome party, we started feeling like slightly more overwhelmed because there was, the welcome party area where they did like dinner, cocktails, some entertainment. Then they moved to a whole new space where they did more specialty cocktails, more performances. And so that was just like 2 areas that we needed to tackle as far as details. And then, in like such a short amount of time, so like in 4 hours. So we were just like, go, 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 go. And then the wedding day was like 4 different locations. So we should have brought on someone, the photographer had 4 on his team. So if you were to kind of imagine like how we felt going in with 2 of us when there was 4 photographers, we were a little bit, and maybe we did fine. I mean, I look back on the footage and I'm like, okay, we like shot the hell out of this wedding for sure. But like we never stopped, like didn't eat for like 12 hours. We were just like, there was no time because it was like, one thing I think is like kind of a little bit of a hack, which I think, I don't know if anyone has listening has done this, or I don't know if Taylor, if you've done this, but sometimes lighting isn't like quite right, or the timing doesn't work out quite right to shoot like a space. And so 2 spaces that you can kind of maybe go back in the day and reshoot is the ceremony, or the cocktail hour. So in this case, we did not have enough time from when the church happened to like beat the guests back. There was just like no way that we were going to make it. 2 photographers had already gone back to the venue to like shoot that space, but we didn't have the capacity to do that. So what we did is, during the dinner, the staff went back and reset the space, and we helped out too because there wasn't like enough bandwidth to do it all. And we reset the space and we shot cocktail hour after the fact. And honestly, it was really nice because it was in way nicer light, and the photographers came back and reshot it too because they're like, oh yeah, light's way nicer now than when we originally shot it like middle of the day. And we did a similar thing. We shot a wedding in Wyoming, and the light was just rough when it was like the slotted time for us to shoot it. So during dinner, we went back to the ceremony site, and we had voiced this before to the planner, just saying like, hey, if there's an opportunity, can the florist hold on moving any florals or breaking things down until we can go back and like shoot it for 5 or 10 minutes in much nicer light? Taylor, have you ever done anything like that?
So I have shot the ceremony space during like cocktail hour, like pretty much immediately-ish, like 30 minutes after the ceremony ends, like, but that's like honestly the latest I've ever gone back. And actually, like, I kicked myself in the foot about it because I got like a drone shot of like the ceremony space, which I always love getting, but I didn't notice there was like 2 chairs in the front row that were just enough off kilter from someone having sat there already and gotten up. And I didn't notice those too until I like got back and like was like loading footage on my computer and stuff. Because like on the tiny little drone monitor, like it kind of like it looked fine, you know. So it's kind of like those hindsight 2020. So that's where it really like pays off to like do your due diligence in the moment and like make sure everything is perfect. But I think that's such a great hack. That's like one benefit of kind of entering this like higher tier of the wedding industry is that there's less like double usage of items. So like you'll find in like entry level, like they're using the same chairs from ceremony to reception, or you know what I mean? So they're like immediately tearing it down, or they're taking the altar and like putting it behind the sweetheart table or whatever it is. Like those florals are being repurposed. But at the luxury like level, like a lot of times like the color schemes are not even the same. Like you might have like a totally like blue flowers for the ceremony and then orange flowers for the reception. Like they're totally different. So yeah, it does kind of make it easier.
Yeah, it's that was so interesting. And you know, or sometimes you'll see like the aisleway flowers, they'll turn and use them for like the front of the band, like the stage of the band. So that's another thing. And walking away from this wedding, I mean, we've definitely had weddings where there wasn't reuse, but I was just thinking of like the grandness of it, on how grand each piece was as far as like cocktail hour, the church, and like those florals were like way different. Actually, it was funny because us and the photographer showed up at the church and we were like, is this our wedding? Because the florals looked so different because they created it to like add to the church. Like they didn't want anything that was really stood out. So they kind of played on the tones and the colors of the interior of the church, which was actually really beautiful. But it just looked so different than what was happening back at the venue. And so, yeah, so that is a really cool benefit of like this level of the market is, yeah, the reuse isn't as necessary because the budgets are just expansive, I guess, if that's the right word. Extensive.
That's probably a good word.
Yeah, both extensive and expansive.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been to weddings where we're like literally like tearing tripods down from the ceremony and like they're having guests help move chairs. Like, I don't know if you remember weddings like that, but like to me, that's so like stressful. Like I feel stressed out. Like I feel like everyone in the vicinity is kind of like stressed. So, but it's good to experience those things. Like, I think it's like so great for people to like move through the levels of the industry so that you can like really appreciate like kind of once you get past that point, like it's like a breath of fresh air, you know? Yeah. I don't know. I'm just kind of like laughing about like specific like weddings. We get through it though.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I didn't want to like feel like too novice in like, you know, cause I wanted to ask one of the photographers, like, is this like all weddings at this level? Like, I mean, the budget on this wedding was insane. Like just what was happening on the lawn for like the 4-hour dinner, the planner told me the cost of that was $1 million. So if you were to take the rehearsal dinner, welcome party was for all the guests, this wedding day, and then the brunch after, I mean, I can only imagine like probably 2 million, maybe more. So yeah, we were like, this is another level. And she did reiterate that like this one was a little wild. Like it was a crazy timeline. It was lots of logistics, moving parts. And so I was like, whew, okay, I can do this, you know? But yeah, definitely could have used a third. Also, I don't know if Taylor and I have talked about it much, but we talk about it in our course about how you'll encounter more themed events. Mm-hmm. And one of the themes that we weren't aware of was that the farewell brunch on Sunday was an all-white brunch. And we did not have anything all white to like, and the photographer had a call with the planner beforehand. And so I think either he knew the right questions to ask because he has like had more experience with this, or she notified him. But like, yeah, we definitely were like not in all white when like the rest of the photo team was in like their linen and like very much blended with the guests. So that was another thing of like just making sure that you're asking the right questions, preparing as much as possible beforehand. And it would have been such an easy email for me to send on like, maybe when she sent out the timeline, just kind of saying like, hey, are there any color schemes as far as attire we should be aware of so that we can like best blend with the guests? You know, something as easy as that.
Yeah, no, this is like definitely one of the perks of like you kind of like blazing the way, or like what's, I don't know, trailblazing, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that like everyone can truly like learn from that. I won't call that a mistake. That's not a mistake, but like maybe just
It was just
something that,
like an oversight for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so like now people can kind of add that to their workflow and then avoid wearing black to an all white event.
Yeah. Luckily we were
That's
in
like my
black.
entire wardrobe is black. I'm like, I don't know what to
Yeah.
wear.
Yeah, luckily, yeah, I don't even know what I would have white. I would have had to buy something new for sure. I was wearing kind of like a tannish brown, like pattern dress that felt brunchy in my mind. So I wore something brunchy, but I didn't know that it was an all white brunch. So, oops, it's fine. No one really cared. I think they all kind of like understood, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool too because everyone like all wore white, and then the couple she wore like this bright yellow dress, and then he wore
Oh,
like a cool like blue linen blazer type of situation. So it looked very cool with all the white guests, and then
yeah,
me
I
in
bet they
a
really popped.
tan. Yeah,
I mean, tan's pretty close to white. I feel like that's like, at least you weren't in,
all
I don't know. I
black.
feel like black would be the worst. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, Paul showed up. He was wearing like kind of like these like green dress pants. He didn't go black either. He was trying to go as brunchy as possible, but he wore these like green dress pants with like a floral shirt. It was a short sleeve, so at first he had a gray suit jacket over it, but then when all the guests were arriving, he was like, "I'm gonna ditch this jacket." So he had like a white and then like patterned floral shirt on, but with the green pants. And it was fine too because like even the photographers were wearing short sleeves because it was like casual. It was like, it was a nice brunch, but I feel like you're
Not black tie.
generally not really wearing like a coat to brunch.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Brunch feels like a
So,
summer afternoon. Yeah.
yeah, it very
Imagining what
much
you would wear.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing, we talked about this a few things back, but when we were working with the photo team, it was apparent to me that they like to shoot on like wider lenses but get closer up. And so even when it comes to like the toasts, so I was on a 135. I'm generally on a 135 to shoot the toast giver, and then I'm usually on an 85 to shoot the couple, but then also the camera I'm working on is a crop in 4K, so it's like even a little tighter. And so the first toast went, and I was getting like a lot of photographers like in my shots. And like, instead of being like, hey, like, you're in my shot, I'm like back here, I'm like, okay, you just have to like meet them where they're at. So for the next round of toasts, I did like a 50 and an 85 on the toast giver, 50 on the couple, and then just like really just brought it back. So it, like my tripod was like side by side with where the photographer was choosing to shoot from. So, just again being a team player and being adaptable, moldable to switching things up because we all have different workflows, and so just trying to be as flexible as possible.
Yeah, when you were telling me about that part, like after your wedding, I just thought that was like such a smart idea. I think that a lot of us kind of get stuck in our ways. Like, I always shoot toasts this one way, and like we forget that like there's actually no rule book. Like, you can kind of like do whatever works, honestly. And like, I think it is like a better experience for like everyone involved to stand next to a photographer. Like, at that point, like, you don't really have to worry about like being too much in the way. You're just standing next to them,
Yeah.
and being really like you said, just like really flexible in how you approach things, and realizing that, I mean, honestly, no wedding is like cookie cutter. Like, every single wedding has like its own unique set of challenges, whether that be like the layout or the couple or how many guests there are or whatever. And like, again, like, that's why it's good to kind of like spend a few years like really like learning the ropes in like lower weddings, so that like by the time you kind of reach like the point where you want to scale your business, like, you've really experienced a lot and you can kind of like pivot a lot faster. I don't know, I kind of like see it as like cooking. Like, when you're like just learning to cook, like, you really have to like follow a recipe like really closely, like, and you're like Googling like, how do I mince garlic? Like, you know what I mean? Like all these like really like beginner things. And then like as you go, you can like honestly just like have a bunch of like ingredients in front of you and just like throw them in the oven and it's like delicious. Like I feel like that you can't just do that from day one. And it's kind of the same with any skill. Especially our skill, like in a live event where there's not really any do-overs.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, learned just so much from that one. It was amazing. I mean, I don't feel like we didn't capture it in the best way we could. It's just that it would have been a lot more like digestible and helpful if we had a third on there with us. So, yeah, I guess it also just kind of like asking the questions, because the biggest thing for us was just how many transitions there were throughout the day. So, you know, like getting ready to then driving to the church, to then coming back to cocktail hour, to then having a dinner, then moving into the whole new welcome or after party space. And so having, you know, I never really saw like a layout beforehand or like anything like that. So it would have been helpful to have like, and I should have just asked. Taylor and I talk about in the course, we talk about how like it's important to like never assume anything. And so like that was, you know, something where I felt like we just kind of like assumed because actually, okay, side tangent. I've talked with a couple of photographers who, when a planner is a very like well-versed luxury, ultra luxury planner or whatever, they will actually tell the photographer when there needs to be more than just a second. Like they'll say like, hey, I think you're gonna maybe need like 3 on this one or whatever. We have one coming up with a photographer in July, and he was like, yeah, I'm just going to wait till I might need a third, but I'm going to wait and see if the planner tells me that I'm going to need a third for that one. So, I thought that was like kind of smart. I don't know. How do you approach that, Taylor? Have you done any with like a third too?
Yeah, I've done a few with a third, and honestly, like, I probably wouldn't advise anyone to do it this way. So like, I don't know, take this with a grain of salt, but like I just add somebody and I kind of eat the cost because I see it as like making my job easier, like, and less stressful. So like I know that a lot of people will like sell a third, like, and I think that with enough time and like if I knew a timeline like 90 days in advance and like I thought I could like sell a third, like I totally would do that. But like there's been times where like I just add a third kind of like 3 weeks out. And I've always been like so thankful that we did that. One of the biggest weddings I had last year was with Beth Helmstead. It was the one where Boys to Men performed. It was a big wedding. And so it was me and Julia Kendner on like day one for the Sangeet. It was like it was actually a multicultural Indian wedding. That's when Boys to Men performed. It was on that day. And then the second day was the wedding day, and I was not able to be there. Like they knew that I was going to have like a team like shoot on my behalf. So I had Julia fly out. I flew somebody else up from like LA area. And then I actually had someone local kind of added to the team. I mean, actually I booked this wedding 30 days before it happened. So it was like a very short turnaround altogether, but we added that third person, and we were all on a group text thread. So like I was at my own wedding, like doing my own wedding that day, and then I had this team doing this one, and we were all in a group text, and I was like watching their texts kind of like ping around. And this venue is just like so nuts, like how expansive it is, and all the stairs, and like how do you get gear up and down these like giant stairs. And if anyone listening has done like an Indian wedding, like they do, is called like a barat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but it's like basically where like the groom and like all the groom's family like kind of parades like with a horse like down the road, and then you go right into the ceremony, and so there's like really no breathing time. And afterwards, like I was just trying to get like all the details like from the team, like how to go, everything. And Julie was like, oh my God, like thank God you added a third. Honestly, like I don't know if we would have been able to even do it. And it's just like,
wow.
Yeah, you just kind of eat the costs, and it's I don't know. But having a third is honestly like kind of a game changer. Even if they're not like doing a lot of shooting, like even if it's a little bit more like grunt work, which maybe you would like want to find someone who like is learning, who would be like cool with like doing more of like the grunt work, like a lot of like tearing down tripods and moving things and grabbing audio off of officiants before they leave, and like kind of doing that, and then kind of like manning angles like during like those like multi-angle like events, like ceremony toasts, things like that. But my like biggest piece of advice is to like, so you guys are husband and wife team, so you don't really bring on a lot of like additional like team members, but like I'm by myself, I always bring on a second shooter. And I feel like one of the biggest hacks that like helped me is to like find a second shooter that is at least as good as you, if not like better than you. And like that is so freeing. Like in the early days of my business, I used to like totally cheap out. I was like, who can I find that'll do this for like $50? You know, like, and it's like
$50 an hour, not for the whole day.
$50 an hour. Yeah. $50 an hour. And so
just to clarify.
Like, yeah. Sorry. No, that would be like so sad if I only paid them $50 total. No. But it's like, it's more like people at like the beginner level, you know? And so, which is great when you're a beginner, like you're at the same level, right? But then kind of as you grow, like you really want your shooters to like grow with you or be better than you. And that's just going to like elevate your footage and like bring this like kind of like, it rounds you out. And like, I like to find someone who's like good at things that maybe I'm not good at. So like, do I have a drone? Yeah. Can I fly a drone? Yeah. Can I be creative with a drone? Yeah-ish. Do I like flying it? Absolutely not. No, I hate it. Like every minute that the drone's in the air, I'm like sweating. I'm like,
are you?
I'm gonna crash? Yes, I hate it. It's like my least favorite thing. So I love finding second shooters who like love to drone. I'm like, that's your job all day.
Oh yeah. One of the 4 photographers, her job was like doing some of the grunt work, like an assistant to the main, but then also the drone operator when needed. And so that would have been really nice. And again, like if we would have brought on a third, like you said, Taylor, like that would have been a cost that we would have incurred. We wouldn't have charged the client for that, because if anything, I'm looking at it as an investment back into my business, because one, they're going to be able to get shots that we couldn't get with just the 2 of us. And which means like you just get like cooler stuff or things that are a little bit outside of the box that might just be more interesting or really cool within a teaser. And then 2, like going kind of back to the burnout thing, like I think it can kind of help with like not having such high burnout rates, you know, with
you're not hustling quite as hard for those 10 hours.
Yes, or 12, like this one was.
Or like you probably shot for like 24 hours, honestly, over 4 days. Like that's a lot of
So as far as like how much we shot, just to kind of like put things in perspective, so we shot it in 4K and it was 3.5 gigabytes or terabytes, 3.5 terabytes.
So we're on 1DX Mark IIs, and like the file sizes are kind of like just absolutely ridiculous. So
yeah,
maybe if we were Sony, like it would be like half a terabyte.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
No, maybe not. Maybe like a full terabyte.
I do love our 1DX Mark IIs though. I just really love them. Anyways, but yeah, it was crazy. Not ashamed to share like the areas where there might have been a flop on that one, but overall I felt really confident about it. Again, I'm always happy to continue to keep learning, and nothing like crazy detrimental happened or anything like that, but it was just like small tweaks that I felt like could have been better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how often do you like finish a wedding and think like while you're driving back, like, I nailed that 100%. There's nothing I would have changed. Like, I always have like something, and I feel like that's like a healthy thing to feel. Like you should never feel like 100% like you've arrived, or like 100% like you're like perfect, because like none of us are perfect, you know? So I don't know. I feel like that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
So with all of this being said, obviously Kelley and I are still growing, but the luxury market is just a place that is so fun. Like if you want to feel like challenged and fulfilled and like you're being paid what you're worth and all these things, like we would love to invite anyone. I mean, obviously you're listening to this podcast. That's like kind of what like our theme is. So I think that if you're listening, we have an offer that you would really enjoy, and we hope to see you all here. We are actually putting on a free 3-day workshop called The Road to Luxury, which we are so excited about. It'll be running from June 5th through 7th of 2023 this year. Kelley, do you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it'll be a free 3-day workshop. Over the course of 3 days, we will be mapping out how to pave the way to the road to luxury. I think that it is something that's on the horizon for so many of us, those listening. And again, this is a completely free workshop. We would love to invite you. You can sign up at thelevelupco.com/workshop. So we really hope to see you there. The first day is actually going to be on my birthday. So come out and hang out with me on my birthday. And then we will continue from there in paving the way towards luxury and really trying to help those who are ready to make that jump.
Yeah, we're so excited, and the beginning of June, I feel like, is like the perfect time so that all of this information is just like fresh in our minds for peak wedding season. We can really make the most out of 2023 so that we can use these weddings to push into an even better 2024 season. So we really hope to see you all there on the road to luxury. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more filmmakers just like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media. Don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.